Chapter 12 Parliamentary System. The Constitution of India provides for a parliamentary form of government both at the centre and in the states. Article 74 and 75 deal with the parliamentary system at the centre and Article 163 and 164 in the states. Modern democratic governments are classified into parliamentary and presidential on the basis of nature of the relation between the executive and the legislative organs of the government. The parliamentary system of government is the one in which the executive is responsible to the legislature for its policies and acts. The presidential system of government, on the other hand, is the one in which the executive is not responsible to the legislature for its policies and acts and is constitutionally independent of the legislature in respect of its term of office. The parliamentary government is also known as cabinet government or responsible government or Westminster model of government and is prevalent in Britain, Japan, Canada, India, among others. The presidential government, on the other hand, is also known as non-responsible or non-parliamentary or fixed executive system of government and is prevalent in USA, Russia, Brazil, Sri Lanka, among others. Ivor Jennen called the parliamentary system as cabinet system because the cabinet is the nucleus of power in a parliamentary system. The parliamentary government is also known as responsible government as the cabinet, the real executive, is accountable to the parliament and stays in office so long as it enjoys the latter's confidence. It is described as Westminster model of government after the location of the British Parliament where the parliamentary system originated. In the past, British constitutional and political experts described the Prime Minister as primus inter pares, first among equals in relation to the cabinet. In the recent period, the Prime Minister's power, influence, and position have increased significantly as compared to the cabinet. He has come to play a dominant role in British political administrative system. Hence the later political analysts like Crossman, Mackintosh and others have described the British system of government as the prime ministerial government. The same description holds good in the Indian context too. Features of the parliamentary government. The features or the principles of parliamentary governments in India are: first, nominal and real executive. The president is the nominal executive, de jure executive or titular executive, while the prime minister is the real executive, de facto executive. Thus, the president is the head of the state while prime minister is head of the government. Article 74 provides for a council of ministers headed by the prime minister to aid and advise the president in exercise of his functions. The advice so tendered is binding on the president. Second point, majority party rule. The political party which secures the majority seat in the Lok Sabha forms the government. The leader of that party is appointed as the prime minister by the president. Other ministers are appointed by the president on the advice of the prime minister. However, no single party gets the majority. However, when no single party gets the majority, a coalition of parties may be invited by the president to form the government. Third point, collective responsibility. This is the bedrock of principle of parliamentary government. The ministers are collectively responsible to the Parliament in general and to the Lok Sabha in particular. Article 75. They act as a team and swim and sink together. The principle of collective responsibility implies that Lok Sabha can remove the ministry, that is, Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister, from office by passing a vote of no confidence. Fourth point, political homogeneity. Usually, member of the Council of Ministers belong to the same political party and hence they share the same political ideology. In case of coalition government, the ministers are bounded by consensus. Fifth point, double membership. The ministers are members of both the legislature and the executive. This means that a person cannot be a minister without being a member of parliament. The Constitution stipulates that a minister who is not a member of parliament for a period of 6 consecutive months ceases to be a minister. Sixth point, leadership of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister plays the leadership role in this system of government. He is the leader of Council of Ministers, leader of the Parliament, leader of the party in power. In these capacities, he plays a significant and highly crucial role in the functioning of the government. Seventh point, dissolution of the lower house. The lower house of the Parliament, Lok Sabha, can be dissolved by the President or on recommendation of the Prime Minister. In other words, the Prime Minister can advise the President to dissolve the Lok Sabha before the expiry of its term and hold fresh elections. This means that executive enjoys the right to get the legislature dissolved in a parliamentary system. Eighth point, secrecy. The ministers operate on the principle of secrecy of procedure and cannot divulge information about their proceedings, policies, and decisions. They take the oath of secrecy before entering their office. The oath of secrecy to the minister is administered by the President. Features of the presidential government. Unlike the Indian Constitution, American Constitution provides for the presidential form of government. The features of the American presidential system of government are as follows. A. The American president is both the head of the state and head of the government. As the head of the state, he occupies a ceremonial position. As the head of the government, he leads the executive organ of the government. B. The president is elected by an electoral college for a fixed tenure of 4 years. He cannot be removed by the Congress except by impeachment for a grave unconstitutional act. C. The president governs with the help of a cabinet or a smaller body called kitchen cabinet. It is only an advisory body and consists of non-elected departmental secretaries. They are selected and appointed by him and are responsible only to him and can be removed only by him at any time. D. The President and his secretaries are not responsible to the Congress for their acts. They neither possess the membership in the Congress nor attend its sessions. D. E. Point. The President cannot dissolve the House of Representatives, the lower house of the Congress. F. The doctrine of separation of power is the basis of American presidential system. The legislative, executive, and judicial powers of the government are separated and vested in 3 independent organs of the government. Merits of the parliamentary system. The parliamentary system of the government has the following merits. First one, harmony between the legislature and the executive. The greatest advantage of the parliamentary system is that it ensures harmonious relationship and cooperation between legislative and executive organs of the government, and the executive is the part of legislature and both are independent at work. As a result, there is less scope of disputes and conflicts between the two organs. Second point, Responsible government. By its very nature, the parliamentary system establishes a responsible government. The ministers are responsible to the parliament for all their acts of omission and commission. The parliament exercises control over the ministers through various devices like question hour, discussion, adjournment motion, no confidence motion, etc. Third point, prevents despotism. Under this system, the executive authority is vested in a group of individuals, council of ministers, and not in a single person. This dispersal of authority checks the dictatorial tendencies of the executive. Moreover, the executive is responsible to the parliament and cannot be removed by a no confidence motion. Fourth point, ready alternative government. In case of the ruling party loses its majority, the head of the state can invite the opposition party to form the government. This means an alternative government can be formed without fresh elections. Hence, Dr. Jennings says the leader of the opposition is the alternative prime minister. Fifth point, wide representation. In a parliamentary system, the executive consists of a group of individuals, that is, the ministers who are representative of the people. Hence, it is possible to provide representation to all sections and regions of the government. The Prime Minister, while selecting his ministers, can take this factor into consideration. Demerits of the parliamentary system. In spite of the above merits, the parliamentary system suffers from various demerits. First, unstable government. The parliamentary system does not provide a stable government. There is no guarantee that a government can survive its tenure. The minister depends on the mercy of the majority legislatures for their continuity and survival in office. A no confidence motion or political defection or evils of multi-party coalition can make the government unstable. The government headed by Morarji Desai, Charan Singh, VP Singh, Chandrasekhar Devagowda, I.K. Gujral are some examples. Second, no continuity of policies. The parliamentary system is not conducive for the formulation and implementation of long-term policies. This is due to the uncertainty of the tenure of government. A change in the ruling party is usually followed by a change in the policies of government. For example, the Janata government headed by Morarji Desai in 1977 reversed a large number of policies of the previous Congress government. The same was repeated by the Congress government after it came back to power in 1980. Third point, dictatorship of the cabinet. When the ruling party enjoys absolute majority in the parliament, the cabinet becomes autocratic and exercises nearly unlimited power. H.J. Lakshi says that the parliamentary system gives the executive an opportunity for tyranny. Ramsay Muir, the former British Prime Minister, also complained of the dictatorship of the cabinet. This phenomenon was witnessed during the era of Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. Fourth point, against the separation of power. In the parliamentary system, the legislative and the executive are together and inseparable. The cabinet acts as the leader of the legislature as well as the executive. As Beghot points out, the cabinet is a hyphen that joins the buckle that binds the executive and legislative departments together. Hence, the whole system of government goes against the letter and spirit of the theory of separation of power. In fact, there is a fusion of power. Fifth point, government by amateurs. The parliamentary system is not conducive to administrative efficiency as ministers are not experts in their field. The Prime Minister has a limited choice in the selection of minister. His choice is restricted to the Member of Parliament alone and does not extend to the external talent. Moreover, the ministers devote most of their time to parliamentary work, cabinet meetings, and party activities. Now, let us compare the parliamentary and presidential system in terms of their features, merits, and demerits. Table number 12.1. Comparing parliamentary and presidential system. Parliamentary system features. Presidential system features. Parliamentary system, first feature, dual executive. Second, majority party rule. Third, collective responsibility. Fourth, political homogeneity. Fifth, double membership. Sixth, leadership of the Prime Minister. Seventh, dissolution of the lower house. Eighth, fusion of powers. Presidential system features. First, single executive. Second, president and legislature elected separately for a fixed term. Third, non-responsibility. Fourth, political homogeneity may not exist. Fifth, single membership. Sixth, domination of president. Seventh, no dissolution of the lower house. Eighth, separation of powers. Parliamentary system merits. First one, harmony between legislature and the executive. Second one, responsible government. Third, prevents despotism. Fourth, wide representation. Presidential systems demerits. First one, conflicts between the legislature and the executive. Second, non-responsible government. Third, may lead to autocracy. Fourth, narrow representation. Parliamentary system demerits. Unstable government. No continuity of policies. Third, against separation of power. Fourth, government by amateurs. Presidential system merits. First one, stable government. Second, definiteness in policies. Third, based on separation of power. Reasons for adopting parliamentary system. A plea was made in favor of the US presidential system of government in the Constituent Assembly, but the founding fathers preferred the British parliamentary system due to the following reasons. First one, familiarity with the system. The constitution makers were somewhat familiar with the parliamentary system as it had been in operation in India during the British rule. K.M. Munshi argued that for the last 30 or 40 years, some kind of responsibility has been introduced in the government of this country. Our constitutional tradition have become parliamentary. After this experience, why should we go back and buy a novel experience? Second point, preference to more responsibility. B.R. Ambedkar pointed out that in the Constituent Assembly that a democratic executive must satisfy two conditions, stability and responsibility. Unfortunately, it has not been possible so far to devise a system which can ensure both in equal degree. The American system gives more stability but less responsibility. The British system, on the other hand, gives more responsibility but less stability. The draft constitution in recommendation of the parliamentary system of executive has preferred more responsibility to more stability. Third point, need to avoid legislative-executive conflicts. The framer of the constitution wanted to avoid the conflicts between the legislature and the executive, which are bound to occur in the presidential system prevalent in the USA. They thought that an infant democracy could not afford to take the risk of perpetual cleavage, feud, or conflict, or threatened conflict between these two organs of the government. They wanted to form a government that would be conducive to the manifold development of the country. Fourth point, nature of the Indian society. India is one of the most heterogeneous states and most complex plural societies in the world. Hence, the constitution makers adopt the parliamentary system as it offers greater scope for giving representation to various sections, interests, regions in the government. This promotes a national spirit among the people and builds a united India. Whether the parliamentary system should be continued or should be replaced by the presidential system has been a point of discussion and debate in our country since 1970s. This matter was considered in detail by Swaran Singh Committee appointed by the Congress government in 1975. The committee opined that parliamentary system has been doing well and hence there is no need to replace it by the presidential system. Distinction between the Indian and the British models. The parliamentary system of government in India is largely based on the British parliamentary system. However, it never became a replica of the British system and differs in the following respects. First one, India has a republican system in place of the British monarchical system. In other words, the head of the state in India, that is the president, is elected while the head of the state in Britain, that is the king or queen, enjoys hereditary position. Second point, the British system is based on the doctrine of sovereignty of Parliament, while the Parliament is not supreme in India and enjoys limited and restricted powers due to a written constitution, federal system, judicial review, and fundamental rights. Third point, in Britain, the Prime Minister should be a member of the lower house, House of Commons of the Parliament. In India, the Prime Minister may be a member of any of the two houses of the Parliament. Fourth point, usually the member of Parliament alone are appointed as minister in Britain. In India, a person who is not a member of Parliament can also be appointed as minister, but for a maximum period of 6 months. Fifth point, Britain has the system of legal responsibility of ministers, while India has no such system. Unlike in Britain, the ministers in India are not required to countersign the official acts of the head of state. Sixth point, shadow cabinet is an unique institution of the British cabinet system. It is formed by the opposition party to balance the ruling cabinet and to prepare its member for the future ministerial office. There is no such institution.